Right, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Head Strategic Credit Change at Nedbank, Theesan Reddy. Has worked in the bank for over 22 years. Over 15 years, 15 of these years have been spent in credit assessment, ranging from retail to small businesses to corporate customer. He spent the last few years heading up the strategic credit change in retail and business banking risk at Nedbank. So Waiti sometimes how ulozama, they're talking to you about credit score. They tell you that your credit score is not good enough, therefore they can't give you a loan, and you're like, but king credit score, we've brought in an expert to come and share with us. The head strategic credit change at Nedbank, Theesan Reddy. Theesan, the stage is yours. As he comes on stage, please let's show some love, ladies and gentlemen, for Theesan Reddy.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time and joining us. I hope we can have a fruitful and uplifting conversation about credit. Probably the most boring topic ever, but as always, the boring stuff is the important stuff. So when I was sitting and trying to prep for this conversation, that I want to call it, it was tricky because how do you come and speak to entrepreneurs when you're not one yourself, firstly? Secondly, you guys are always on the front line. You there dealing with the nonsense of being an entrepreneur on a daily basis. And with the access to information these days, especially YouTube, Google, how do I come here and speak to you about something that you can't just go and find online yourself? So I said, let's try and flip it up a bit today, and let's have a conversation. So let's try and understand, what are your concerns? What are your questions about credit in general? And especially, I think we want to focus a bit on cash flow management today. Coming to this time of the year, I think as an entrepreneur is probably the most difficult time of the year when it comes to managing cash flow. And that's just because expenses start to ramp up. People or staff are expecting bonuses. Expenses are up because you need to cater for additional either stock ramping up for next year or just end of the year costs. And the big struggle is that everyone is feeling that same pinch. So your customers who used to pay you on time every month, all of a sudden they're not answering the phone. They blue ticking you on WhatsApp and you're like, what's going on now? I need this money. I got bills to pay for December. So it's a really, really difficult time of the year. And I think as an entrepreneur and even as a banker, what we learn is that once you go through one or two of these cycles, you need to start to pick the trends, and I'm being attacked here. How do you pick up on the trends of what's going on each year? And then from there, how do you build and be better? Now it's easy to say, just build up and you'll be fine. So you know if my guys don't pay me come end of November, December, then I'm okay. But it's not that easy. Building up a cash flow buffer for what is essentially to cover expenses December into mid-January, sometimes even till February, which is when you might receive your first payment from customers, is very, very difficult. And it's something that you need to instill discipline in yourself to say that through the year, I need to make sure I try and put money aside because come December, January, it's long. January is 31 days, but it can feel like 6 months when you've looking for cash. So some of the tips we give to customers, and this is not a situation that's unique to small businesses. I've had large corporates phone me on the 10th of December and say, Theesan, we were waiting for a big payment to come in, hasn't happened, we've got bonuses to pay by the 15th, we're in trouble. And these are huge corporates, lots of backing, lots of smart people working there, but they also sometimes get it wrong when it comes to this time of the year. So do not feel bad if you're in that situation where you're not sure how you're going to cover the costs. You need to get through those phases, you learn from it, and then just keep growing after that. So some of the things we look at is start engaging your customers early on. Try and start understanding which are the ones that might let me down. that might not make the payments. And sometimes with a conversation with them face to face, you can pick up on those kind of vibes. Who's going to dodge me when it comes to November and December? When you've got that understanding, start planning for it. See how you're going to best manage it. Have better conversations with them. Go and visit them regularly and make sure you're on top of their mind. Explain to them the importance of you being paid on time, the impact it has on you as an entrepreneur, your business, your staff, when you don't get paid on time. Have those conversations, because if there's one thing I've learned, when it comes down to who must I pay, I generally pay the ones that made the biggest noise first. And the ones that were quiet, can hang on a bit. You'll get it later. So have those conversations. Be brave, have courageous conversations, as they call it, with your customers. The other side of things is, how can you squeeze from your creditors? How do you engage with them and try and build in a bit of breathing space? And that is, again, courageous conversations. Speak to your creditors. Explain to them the situation. And as much as they are also in a position where they need to manage their cash flow, sometimes it's in everyone's interest to work together, meet halfway, and see how you both can come out better, surviving this very difficult period. That's December. And that was just a bit about this time of the year. I know I've got a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs, and the guys are already starting to cry. How are they going to pay salaries, bonuses? So it is a tricky time. I just want to spend a bit now speaking about cash flow in general before we go into conversations with each other. Cash flow is the one, it's actually critical. I would say one of the most important aspects in a business. It is called the lifeblood of a business. But it's something that people tend to overlook and not pay too much attention to it. So I'll give you guys an example. When I sit with a customer, whether it's an entrepreneur in a small business or the CFO of a large corporate, one of the things I like to do is say, take me through your financials. Tell me the story behind the numbers. And that for me, as a credit person, is important. Anybody can say, oh, look, I increased my sales by 10%. But only someone who is in tune with their business and understands what's happening in their environment can tell you the story behind that increase in 10%. And the same applies if it went down by 10%. You need to always be in touch and be able to tell the story behind your financials. So when I sit with them, they'll go page through the financials. Oh, here's my income statement. Look at my sales, how nice. I made profit. Turn the page. Look at my balance sheet. I've got some cash here. I've got stock. I've got good liquidity. I'm solvent. Turn the page. Cash flow statement. Turn the page very quickly. And let's move on. I'm like, oh, hold on. Thank you. Hold on. Let's go back there. Because that is the one I want to see, what's happening. And that is where I find a lot of the entrepreneurs tend to struggle, in that they don't really understand what is happening in this cash flow statement. And once you get into it and learn about it, it's actually a poetic story that tells you what happened in this business during the year. Where did things go right and where could it have went wrong? And it's important for you guys to look into that. There's tons of videos online that will teach you how to read a cash flow statement, what is happening in it. But some of the things that's key for us as banks and as credit providers is to say, do you understand yourself as the owner of the business, what happened there? And do you know the story around it? And how do you improve it going forward? And that is very important for everyone to understand. Cash flow, sometimes it can be as simple as the guys just saying, well, it's that gap between when I pay money out and when I collect money in. And that's brilliant description of what it is. But it's the management of that is important. It's the management of cash flow that you need to understand. How do I make it through periods? How do I squeeze my creditors to get better terms? How do I engage my debtors to see where I can collect quicker, whether it's through incentives like discounts, or just having good relationships with them? How do I manage that part? How do I ensure I've got enough cash to grow my business when I need? That's an important step on the cash flow statement when it comes to investing activities. And the last component is, when I was in trouble and I had a gap in my cash flow, how did I bridge that gap? Did I reach under my sofa because I had a couple of dollars lying there and that helped me to fix things? Did I approach the bank and have a conversation with them to say, I've got a problem, I need cash, this is why. And this is a point where everyone kind of gets scared. You get to a point, you realize, I've got a problem, I've got money coming in, but the guys are dragging me a bit, I need to make payments. What do I do now? How do I approach the bank? And this is a situation that, as a business owner, you should always be prepared for. Because the only thing that changes is why you need the money and how much you need. Other than that, the supporting information that you need to bring to the bank is still the same. Do I have my latest financials? Do I have management accounts? Do I have the story behind my business and why I'm in this situation? And if it was your own fault, don't be embarrassed about it. Stand up and say, guys, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have paid this guy. I should have pushed more pressure on this guy. I'm in this situation now. It is what it is. I know how to grow and get better from here. For now, I need this assistance. This is why. This is how much I need, and this is what I'm going to do with it. We heard some really good pitches from entrepreneurs now. And the one part for me, listening to a pitch that didn't always come through exactly clearly was, this is what I need, this is how it will improve my business, and this is the thought that I've given to how it's going to work. It's easy to say, I need this money, I'll buy this. But did you give consideration to what you're buying? And I'll give you an example. Somebody said, not in this pitch, but previous customers, I need money to buy equipment. Cool, going to buy this machinery. A quick search of the machinery, it needs three-phase power. Do you have three-phase power in your business premises? No. Okay, so did you really give it thought? What's the point of us giving you money to buy a machine, but you can't commission it into your premises? Did you give consideration to, I need to get a specialist operator that needs to run it? They need to be trained. Having this kind of equipment means I need to comply with certain health and safety requirements. Those are all the things that, as a bank, we can't answer that for you. You as a business need to come and show us, I've given this a lot of thought. I've looked at all the angles as the entrepreneur. I know the risks. Even a simple thing as insurance. Are you going to insure the machine? You should, if somebody's going to finance it for you. Did you factor that into your cash flows? Because now it's an additional expense that you need to pay every month. So there's a lot of important little nitty-gritties that you need to show as the entrepreneur that you've given it thought. And that's what financiers normally look for. Is this person aligned? Do they understand the business? And are they real about what is needed? So I hope that gives you a bit of information. I hope it was not too much of YouTube and Google kind of information. And I'd like to open up the floor now for some Q&As. I'm hoping you guys have some questions. Anything, credit related, cash flow management, questions you want to ask the bank normally and you're scared. I'm not wearing any uniform, so don't worry about whether I'm with the bank or not.
1, 2.
Yes.
Right. We've got a mic here. I've got a question before we head to that gentleman around how do you improve your credit score as an entrepreneur? Because obviously when we go and we're trying to get funding, or it's always a big thing, your credit score is low, your credit score is this, your credit score is that. I mean, for someone who doesn't even know what a credit score is, can you just briefly explain that? Because as entrepreneurs, we just like cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But this thing of credit, it's got a lot to say. But it could be something that helps you to take your business to the next level. So what is it and how do you build it as an entrepreneur?
Thank you, thanks. So I think something that people don't ever realize is that a business And when I say a business, I mean a legal juristic entity, a PTY Limited, a CC. It does not have a credit score for itself. There is no credit bureau for a business. So when you come in as a business, as a PTY Limited or a CC, and you say, I would like to apply for finance, here's my financials. One of the most important things that we do is we look at who's the person behind the business, what is their credit score. As an entrepreneur, if you can't manage your personal finances, how do I trust you to manage the business finances? So the credit score, that is, it's funny because, you know, there's always a person, an individual, a human being behind the credit application. But when you're assessing an application on a computer, you whittle everything down to numbers. And it's difficult because you always need to try and bring in the human element to it. But the reality is it's numbers. And that credit score is that 3-digit number. It was created many years ago and still till today has an extremely important weighting in credit decisioning. That's a number that's generated by the bureau, credit bureaus, based on your behavior in the credit market. And when I say credit market, I mean anything. Credit card, having a personal loan, having a retail clothing account, having a cell phone contract. And there's two things that we look at when I look at a credit score. The credit score and your profile. And when I say profile, I mean your credit bureau profile, which, for interest's sake, you are allowed to get a free copy of that every year from a credit bureau. So please make sure you do that. Look at it and understand what picture that and story that tells about you. Because the two things I look for is, firstly, your ability to repay. I'm looking at how many accounts does it show that you have open. How many? Truworths, Foschini? Is there a Woolworths credit card? Is there a personal loan from somewhere? I'm looking to see how many accounts are there, and did you declare the same accounts when you did your affordability? So sometimes the guys will say, they won't really know that I've got this personal loan over there, so I'm not going to put it in my expenses. It's on the credit bureau. We're going to see it. So that is looking at your ability to repay, because it gives me an idea of how much of expenses do you have to pay credit accounts as it is. The second part, and is a very important part because this speaks to the behavioral side of a credit score, is what is your propensity to repay or your willingness to repay? Because I'm looking at what kind of a person are you when it comes to managing your finances. And the credit score, the bureau report actually shows a 12-month history of how your credit accounts have been conducted. And we look at that to see, did you make your payment on time? Did you make the full payment? Were you late? Did you make a short payment? That is reflected in that history. And that tells me the story of, do you always pay your accounts, or do you miss here, miss there? I can see every year in December you miss your payments. What's going on over there? Is it that you're focusing money on party time instead of focusing on paying those accounts? What is the story over there? And that score from the credit bureau is driven by that behavior. Every time you pay an account late, it pulls down on the score. If you keep paying your accounts up to date, settling accounts on time, that is how you actually build up that profile and get a good score. Is it always a true reflection of a customer's ability to borrow and pay me down the line? Not always. Everyone has their own story. And sometimes it's important for you to tell that story up front. So before you apply for credit, pull your free credit bureau. Have a look at it and see what story it's telling you. If it shows, oh, there was a missed payment, tell the story up front with your application. Guys, you're going to pick up there was a late payment there. This is why it was late. Look at my bank statements. You'll see the payment came in from my customer a couple days late, and I made the payment after that. So even though it shows I was late, I still made my payment. That's the important part. I hope that helps something on the credit bureau.
Sure. All right, my brother, please come to the front. Please just stand in the middle there.
How are you?
Morning. Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So this question is not related to any credit score, anything. So I'm just asking out of curiosity, right? So let me say for a tech startup, right? So most of them, they get into Series B or pre-seed funding, and they tend to burn out. So as a bank, right? Let me say they've been actually. Oh, okay. Sorry, I have a bit of stage fright. So as a bank, right, so they tend to burn out. And some tech companies, especially tech startups, they can start literally for 6 months and get pre-seed funding. So if they burn out as a bank, do you also help them out since they already got the pre-seed funding? And especially for like monetizing, and they haven't been actually functioning for a very long time, or they have been operating for a very long time, so for 4 months, and then they already got the pre-seed funding. So do you help them out as a bank?
Cool, thank you, thanks. And I think that question can relate to a lot of different industries, not just tech startups. And the position we need to be in is to have frank conversations about these kind of requests. And we see it a lot with entrepreneurs coming and saying, I'm starting up this business, I need cash flow, I need funding. And my first question is, okay, I know what you need, but how sustainable are you? How do I know how this business is going to perform at this early point of the business? And what's important there is, again, for you to be able to show the story, what's going on. Start small, launch your product, and prove the concept. Prove that it's viable. Don't come to the bank and say, I've been running for 6 months, I need cash. Okay, but what have you done in that 6 months? What market have you penetrated? Who's your customers? Have you proven it? You don't need to prove your business on a wide scale. Start small, focus on a core element, and grow from there. Because that helps us to think, what direction is this business going in? Not just from a business sales marketing perspective, but also from a sustainability perspective. Because when I lend you money today, I need you to be around for at least 5 years, because you're going to be paying me back over the 5 years. It's not just a once-off and then I walk away. I'm stuck with you on this journey the whole time. So prove the viability of the product. When it comes to taking on additional debt, it's going to be about leverage. So if you got private equity to come in, or a venture capitalist that gave you startup funding, what were the terms of it? How much do they control of the business? Because as much as I'm lending to you, if that private equity came in from somebody who lent it to you on the basis that they take control of the business, now I've got a different dynamic at play. So we need to understand that. So be careful also with the private equity stuff. Guys will see value in what you're doing. They might see there's a possible market penetration here, but also be strict on the terms of what you're engaging with over there, because at the end of the day, it's your business. As much as you need the funding, you must also have control on it. Then we'll see leverage. How much have they lent you? What have you done and accomplished with that? And if we add more debt onto the business, what it's going to do? Startups, that startup phase is always difficult in that access to credit in the traditional markets is very difficult. It's very difficult when you come with only 6 months of history. Secondly, when you do get funding, it comes at a high cost because the risk is high. As an entrepreneur, you also, in that hustle, you're trying to figure out, is this going to work or not? Now we need to come and write a check and say, is this going to work or not? So it comes at a cost. What is that cost going to do to the business? Is the business going to be able to survive carrying that cost at such an early stage? So my advice is always, if you're starting up from the ground, tech startup, try and start small, keep your costs to the bare minimum. And this is not a secret model. This is a model being applied in Silicon Valley with some of the biggest tech startups. Keep it as tight as possible, focus on a core market, grow, and have a concept that you can prove is sustainable. And with that, when you are able to show that story, capital will flow. People will come forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you can clap. Right, because of time, we're going to take one last question. Sure. Are you still going to be here?
I'll
After.
still be here if I don't faint from the heat, one of the two.
All right. My brother, please come to the front. No?
Morning, everyone. My name is Tepo from Ghetto Wings. Ghetto Wings is associated it's actually based in Protea Clinic Station 4. Our business is kind of like operates in the evenings, right? So from 5 p.m. until late. The issue is I struggle from like weather conditions. So I can't really work when it's extremely hot. I can't work at all when it rains. And each and every time that I actually go to a bank for like funding, the business has been running for 3 years. I've got food count of which I sell from ages of 9 until your like 60s. So the business is not actually based as a street corner where it sells at a liquor store or at a party. It has its own corner where like people can actually come in. The thing is, the funding that I've been going to banks to go and like ask for was to actually get myself a container and more like equipment. I'm not safe in the corner, and each and every time that I have to pack my trolleys with my equipment, I just lost a gazebo just on Monday. It got stolen. I lost a fryer just 2 weeks ago, and when we get to the bank, there's paperwork that I cannot give, right? The registrations are there, everything else is there. That's like formal. But then when it comes to the sales record, of which I can't do, I have to deal with the grill, with the fries, the serving. I'm the whole business. Because we can't hire. People will not stand to work in these type of conditions. But this is my business, and I stand for it. So how do I then come to you guys and say, hey, I cannot actually put 1 and 2 and 3 together, but I have a foot count that keeps me up the whole night?
Cool, thank you. Thanks for the question. I think a lot of people can relate to that when it comes to applying for finances, that there's some things I can give, there's some things I can't. So straight off the bat, my advice to you would be, and I understand you working in the business, it's difficult to work on the business while you're handling the grill. So how do your customers pay you, if you don't mind me asking? Cash, or do you accept cards?
I have a local machine and I take cash.
So first thing, the card payments, great, because that means money is going into a bank account. Second one is the cash. As much as we hate it because there's bank fees involved, bank your cash.
It's the most difficult thing that I'm actually facing because then okay, cool. So that is like one of the most hardest conditions to actually like deal with, because then you wake up in the morning and you have to go in stock. At the same time, if you have to go in stock, you have to go to the bank, wait those lines, only to find out when 3 people close, load shedding. So now I can't really bank. I have to take the cash and go in stock. So that kind of delays the whole everyday process of like banking. And also because I operate from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that my body doesn't kill me, you know?
Okay, so, and that's the real world part that as a banker, we don't see and we can't understand. So first thing is, I would say try ATMs if you don't have time for waiting for the banks. Cash deposit at ATMs is available and it's real time. So in most cases, the money is same time in your account. And why I'm saying that, it's important to see what the split is. If cash is a small component of your business, it's fine. Let the cash flow like that and use that to pay some of your creditors. But if it's a large piece of your business, it's taking 60%, 70% of your sales, it's important for us to see it. We need to see it, and the only way we see it is through a bank account. Try your best, deposit the cash, and then use your debit card when you're buying stock. Because as a bank, it tells me the story. I can see on your bank statements, here's cash coming in as deposits, here's purchases being made at customers that we can tie in to say, these are where you are buying stock. That tells a story, and that's important. In your case, I would say highest risks, and we're having courageous conversations here. High risks, you want to buy a container, it's going to be on the road, or in a premises. just placed there.
So, Tsebsa, you know, I think this conversation
Okay, we'll
will
go on.
and on. So, just also for time, I think once Theesan is done, you can
We'll have a chat.
continue the conversation because, yeah, common challenges that.
So
many
I
of them
think
are
just to
faced.
close out
yeah.
common challenges,
Sure.
it's what are you buying? What's the risk in it? As a bank, if I need to fund it, if you don't, and we're always looking at worst case scenario, if you don't pay for it, can I come and fetch it? How am I going to fetch it? Fetching a car is one thing. I just get someone to drive it and move it. How do I fetch a container? I need to get a truck. I need to get someone to come and lift it. That's all additional costs. When I start building that in, all of a sudden, do the numbers stack up for me? I'm also running a business. So it's going to be about telling the right story and showing that you can offset the risk to the person that's lending you the money. It's going to be important. Thank you.
All right, very, very insightful conversation. Thank you, Theesan. Much appreciated. So can we get the picture? Thanks. All right, while we're getting a picture, we're going to get just two pictures. We're going to get one with you in the mic and one without the mic. And then the team will also prepare your gift. Are we happy, Dunks? All right, so we also have a gift for you. Please, can we get the gift for Theesan? This is a token of appreciation from T to say thank you so much for sharing, inspiring the entrepreneurs. Much appreciated. And everything that is inside that gift has been bought from the exhibitors who are here. So every single thing that is in there, we buy it from the exhibitors who are here to show love.